Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my channel Kalanadi. Today I'm going to check in with my reading goals and a little bit of my reading statistics so far in 2018. I had originally planned to do quarterly reading goals and statistics updates like I did back in 2017 because that was very helpful for keeping me on track with my reading goals and challenges and keeping my statistics where I wanted them to be. However, I missed doing my first quarterly update in March or April, and so I decided to just do a mid-year check-in and then do the big statistics shebang at the end of the year and not put too much pressure on myself for doing these things. But this does mean that I haven't been quite as on top of my goals as I would have liked to, so we're going to talk about that. I'm going to start off with some quick statistics though, just to tell you where I am at so far in the year. So as of June 30th, 2018, I have read exactly 150 books or things towards my reading goal. So I've actually just hit my Goodreads reading challenge. I set that to 150 books every year and I've vastly exceeded every year. I just don't bump it up. So that's good. Of those 150 books and things that I read, 77 were by women, which is a pretty high number. 51 were by men, 7 were by both men and women, 3 were by non-binary authors, and I would really love for that number to go up a little bit, and then 12 were things like magazine issues that didn't really have authors or anything applicable for that. My most read genres, these aren't all of the genres that I've read, just the top ones. Science fiction is number 1, that doesn't surprise anybody, followed by comics, fantasy, novellas, young adult, middle grade, and nonfiction. I'm a little surprised that I haven't been reading as much nonfiction so far this year because last year was a great year for reading nonfiction. I just haven't been drawn to it as much this year, I think. I've also read more fantasy and young adult than I think is maybe usual for me these days, but I chalk that up to the fact that I've been doing a bunch of rereading, like the Discworld books by Terry Pratchett, the Tiffany Aching books that I read at the beginning of the year, and the Darkest Rising sequence by Susan Cooper. Those were all young adult. And then other Discworld books haven't counted as fantasy. So rereading is definitely having an effect on my genre statistics, I think. Sources, I do track where I got the books, how I got the books that I read. 45% of the things that I read were from free sources like the library, NetGalley, and publishers, and 55% were from paid sources, which is mainly books that I owned that I paid for myself. For the remainder of the year, I would like to see this lean more heavily in favor of paid sources because that would indicate that I'm reading books that I own from my physical TBR. But going into the future, into 2019, I would obviously like the free sources to be the majority. Right now, it's almost sitting at equal proportions, and I just need to get it one way rather than the other in order to reach some other goals. And now on to my reading goals and challenges. In my original video at the beginning of the year, I set myself 4 goals and then set myself an activity to figure out what kind of my 5th challenge should be. So I'll go through those in order. The first challenge was to read 10% in translation. Currently, I'm at 9.42%, so 9.5%, a little bit low, and this is because I completely forgot to read translated fiction for like 2 months in the beginning of the year. Whoops, I just wasn't paying attention. So reaching 10% is absolutely doable. I just need to pay more attention to it, and I'm working on increasing that number now. The second goal is to read 40% or more by non-American authors. Currently, I'm at 39%, so this is once again a little bit low. And once again, I can totally do this if I pay more attention to it, and keeping my in translation number up will also help because that 10% in translation translates to 10% by non-American authors anyway. This particular goal, however, I'm always teetering right on the brink between not enough and reaching my goal. I did the same thing last year, and basically it's just really hard to avoid reading a lot of United States authors, a lot of American authors, but you know, I can do it if I actually pay attention. My third goal was to read a lot of short fiction, to read the magazines that I subscribe to. I've utterly failed at this. I frankly have just not felt like reading short stories for most of this year, and I'm not going to force myself to read short stories. That would just have the opposite effect, of making me not want to read it anymore. So I'm just gonna wait this one out and see if I hit a short fiction binge later in the year. I will be sad if I don't reach this goal because I feel like it's important and I want to read short stories, but if it doesn't happen, it just doesn't happen. The fourth goal was to reread books. I brought this goal back because I missed rereading so much in 2017, and I've been doing this quite successfully and really enjoying it. So far, 16 of the 150 books I've read were rereads, so roughly 10%, and I'm very happy with that. That sort of happened without me trying. So to make this goal a little bit firmer, I decided I want to hit 15% rereads. I think that would be really awesome. That would be a really decent number to hit by the end of the year. And the fact that I plan on continuing to reread Discworld novels this year, I still want to reread some of Diana Wynne Jones's work, and I would still like to start rereading the Foreigner series by C.J. Cherryh. It's not like I lack for works that I want to reread, so I'm pretty sure I'll hit that one. And the last one, the big issue. In my original goals video, I talked about how basically I have limited space in my house. I have very crowded bookshelves, and I wanted to know how much I was spending on books because I have some out of the ordinary financial commitments this year. So my goal at the beginning of the year was just to track things. I had 3 questions that I wanted to answer. How many books do I acquire? How many books do I get rid of? And how much do I spend on the books that I get? So I've been keeping a spreadsheet of all of these things, so I have answers now. And the answers are, as of June 30th, I have acquired 87 books. 69 of them were physical books, 18 of them were ebooks, and of that total number, I have read 51% of them so far. I have gotten rid of 83 physical books, of which I have read 66% of them. I don't track ebooks that I get rid of because I don't delete ebooks. That was the point, they don't take up space. It's a little bit surprising that I've only read 2/3 of the books that I got rid of, but if you dig into that, I did a purge of my TBR shelf. I got rid of a bunch of things that I realized I just wasn't interested in reading anymore. I also purged my reference section, which is all of the dictionaries and manuals and textbooks and stuff that I use for work and leftovers from grad school and stuff. I got rid of about 1/3 of my reference works actually, and those were all things that you don't read. They're reference works, not novels. So that really surprised me. I thought I had gotten rid of a lot of books at the end of 2017 that I never really recorded. I did some very big purges of books that I had read and everything, and I thought I'm not going to get rid of that many more in 2018. I was wrong, pleasantly so actually. And then money, how much did I spend on them? Of those 87 books that I've acquired so far this year, I have spent $713.23 on them, which is a larger number than I had expected. I've actually spent more than this on books overall because I still have things I have paid for but I haven't received yet, pre-orders and Kickstarter rewards basically. So I've actually committed money and spent money more than that particular number, but I'm counting the $713 as my number right now because that's what I've paid for things that I've actually received and I can start reading now if I want to. So yeah, that number actually surprised me, and based on these 3 things, acquisitions, discards, costs, I have set myself 2 goals or challenges for the remainder of the year. The first one is that the number of physical books I acquire should roughly equal the number of books that I discard. Right now I have a buffer here because my discards exceed my acquisitions because of my purges, so it should be relatively easy for me to achieve this one, but I will definitely have to pay attention to it. The second one is that my annual costs for books should not exceed $1,100 at the end of the year. and keeping costs down is going to be the real challenge. I have set the cap on this rather arbitrarily at 1,100 because as far as I can tell, that is the amount I spent on books in 2017. I don't want to exceed my 2017 costs. This number is also basically the number in my annual entertainment budget. I'm a very highly budgeted person. I know exactly how much money I have to spend on anything in any category for an entire year. And I want to stay within my actual entertainment budget, which, you know, let's be honest, my entertainment budget, my discretionary funds are always for books. I don't spend that money on pretty much anything else. But yeah, I am not exactly happy at how quickly my book costs have racked up this year. It's a good thing that I am keeping track of them. I do always keep track of all of my expenses, but the fact that I've been making a spreadsheet just for book acquisitions, it lets me see my entertainment spending in a way that my usual budgetary spreadsheets don't let me see that. And that's been very eye-opening. I'm very glad that I'm doing this. And part of the reason why I am, let's say, I have mixed feelings about my book costs this year, even though they're technically within budget, is that there have been some other things going on with my finances in previous years. The big one is that back in 2014, I completely wrecked my entertainment budget. It was a terrible year. I basically had retail therapy that year, and I generated this like $300-400 deficit in my entertainment budget. And I have been within budget every year since then, but I've been carrying this deficit with me every year in my spreadsheet, and I hate that so much. So whenever I'm spending money on entertainment things, when I spend money on books, I feel this vague sense of guilt because I've never fixed the deficit in that budget. And the good news is that I am almost done fixing that. I am about to be done with that, and when I go into 2019, I'll be starting completely fresh with all of my budgets, especially my entertainment one, in good shape, back where I used to be pre-2014 hell year, basically. So that's just kind of what's been going on in my brain. It's probably a bit more information than you wanted to hear about my finances in a booktube video, but that is part of the reason why I wanted to really focus on how much I spent on books and stuff. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I've talked a lot about money and that feels kind of weird, but it's a thing that happens to us all, I'm sure. So that is it for my kind of reading statistics and my mid-year goals check-in. I'm relatively happy with all of this. I wish that I had checked in a bit earlier with them and course corrected about a quarter of the way through the year rather than halfway, but it is what it is, you know? So let me know how you've been doing with your reading goals and challenges. Leave me some comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back to talk to you again soon. And until then, bye.